Thank you, baby. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Man, that was quite the introduction. And all you guys are matching. I love uniform things. This is cool, man. This is cool. So as he said, everything he said was 100% true. Literally a week ago, this was not on my calendar. All right. So now, let me start with a couple things. First of all, if you go see a comedy show, comedians generally work in two different ways, one of two different ways. So it's the same show that they travel city to city and give you the same one over and over again. Or you get the guys that have no pre-prepared things and they walk out and they just have conversations with the audience and that sparks all their jokes, right? And that's how it goes. So I'm normally the latter of the two. That's why I love my podcast so much. It's because it's interactive communicating. It's two people having a conversation, right? So first of all, I know a little bit about, because Matthew, we were texting Matthew, and I know y'all have been damn busy because he couldn't hardly get back to us. But he said that I want to hear a little bit about what you guys have done this morning, because that's going to get me fired up so we can get right into it, right? So I heard a little bit about a waterfall. Like, who can tell me what happened so far today?
I signed a non-disclosure.
Yes, sir. That's awesome. That's awesome. Those are very much needed. So what happened after that? Well, and how other many forms did you have to sign before you went and did that stuff? Like everybody have to take their Tylenol or blood pressure meds and any of that kind of stuff? Yeah? Well, look, every one of you have one thing in common, and that you came here to grow, right? Right? So anytime you have unity and likeness in somebody else, good things will follow from that, right? So here's what I got. I've got a agenda over here on these two devices I'm going to be kind of going with. I'm going old school today. Got my notes on the phone, right? And we're having a little bit of fun. However, I might like to get some information from you guys. So will you give me if I ask for it?
We will. Yes.
Yeah? Awesome. I sure appreciate that. Well, first of all, thanks to Nick and the rest of the team for having me. My name is Nick Hyder. I get Hitler. I get Hitter. I get a lot of things all the time. If you keep up with us on YouTube, that's one of the most common things people like to make fun of me about, besides my red hair or my facial hair. I hadn't figured out what's so bad about it, but my wife likes it, and that's all that matters. But they call me Hitler all the time, and I'm just like, you just told me that you can't read, right? Because there's no L in it, and they keep putting one in. But I'm Nick Hyder. I'm the EVP, Executive Vice President of a great company out of Arizona called RAC Financial. That's merchant processing, credit card processing. If you don't know what that is, I'm the president of a company called Team Hyder, which has been launching small insurance agencies and other companies since 2015. I'm the host of the Hitstreak podcast. You should all be subscribing to it if you hadn't. I've had some killer guests on it with more coming. And I'm the founder of HitLab Creative Studios, which some of my team is here today. Jim and Tyler's helping us out. That's the guy behind the camera right over there. So we stay pretty busy, right? We stay pretty busy. But I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my story, because if you believe it or not, in 2013 I was flat broke. I had a wife at home, or a girl at home that I couldn't afford to marry, a young son that I was failing across the board. And this is all after I'd had a career in professional sports and owned and operated 6 different bars and nightclubs over 5 years, right? So I'll tell you guys a little bit about that and the true transition that happened between me and my wife together that led us to be as blessed as we are today, right? So you guys okay if I bless this with a prayer real quick? That's something I like to do. Awesome, let's do it. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for yet another day, first and foremost. It is a very special week for all of us believers in the fact that we celebrate our risen Savior this Sunday. I'm grateful for the opportunity to hang out with these amazing people in the room with me today. Please bless my words to fulfill them for whatever it is they came to be fulfilled with. Help them find you and draw closer to you, and it's in your name that we pray, amen. Awesome. All right. I like to sit down. You guys cool with that? Yep. Cool. All right. So real quick, is there anybody over the age of 50 in here? 2. All right. Over the age of 40? Over the age of 30? Now I know who I'm talking to. All right. So here's what we figured out in the last couple weeks. In the world of merchant processing, you are, I could go on about that, but we are working with businesses to give them a better processing experience and usually save them a lot of money when they're doing so. But you have to be able to communicate through, you have to get digital merchant statements, and a lot of things have to happen. So in my life, I'm 42 years old, and I'm the generation that is unique in the fact that I grew up pre-internet, but I'm growing success with the internet, right? My father can't communicate if he has to communicate through one of these. He's 73 years old, 74 this year. Dad, sorry if I sold you out. And he definitely can't communicate very well with one of these. Everybody that's under the age of like 25, what we're figuring out is you can't communicate if you don't have one of these, right? You can't do this right here. You can't have words right to each other. So communication is key, folks. And my first nugget to you guys is I would challenge you, because we talked about this in the car on the ride over here. If you go back in the history of all mankind and all the problems that have happened, including the ones that we're having today, you can't go back and find the source of that problem and say, you know what? That problem happened because they communicated too well, right? So the first thing you should do with anything that you want to change in your life is look at the level of communication between yourself and everybody in it, right? All right, I'm bad about getting off track here. Let me get back on. So the reason I'm here today, this is kind of what everything I do today is based around. I have been fortunate enough to be around some amazing world-class people. I've got to interview them. I've been able to work with them, collaborate with them, all these incredibly successful people. And I started to study them along the way, and I started to find that all of them had certain things in common. Now, this is where I'm going to ask for some help, okay? Everybody can agree that, would this be considered like a building or a house that we're sitting in today? Building. A building. So what makes a house a house? What's the difference? Heart? Damn, that's a good one too. I like that. What else? Where you live? So again, some people might say they live in a barn, under a bridge. What makes a house a house? I'm going to build a house. What does it have to have? All homes, regardless of shape, size, or location, have these things in common, right? That's what makes them a home.
Is a home a house?
Is a home a house? Well, you make a house a home, right? You make a house a home. And I can promise you, because when we were flat broke, the first house we lived in was very, very small. Love grows best in little places. You know what I'm saying? So what makes a house a house? Well, honestly, that definition can change a lot of times, and it depends on the district or the whoever. Like there's a legal entity that says that's a home, that's not for commercial use or whatever, right? Well, what I've figured out is all successful people have certain things in common. And I've dialed it down to 3 core ingredients to all success of any kind, right? So you might want to write these down. Number 1 is mindset. Number 2 is skill set. And number 3 is habits. All right? And we're going to talk a lot. We're going to come back to those a lot. But that's how I got to my current mission of breaking down the playbook of top performers so that you can get to that next level. Right? So most of the time when I see or speak with folks like you guys, most of the time when you come to these things, it's because you're already at rock bottom. Is anybody here at like rock bottom today? It's okay. This is a secure, safe area. You're at rock bottom, close to rock bottom, right? What's the saying about rock bottom? It's a great foundation to build up. That's right. Well, check it out. As you guys are going to find out, you're here to raise the bar, right, Nick? They're here to raise the bar. And he's going to tell you what the acronym for BAR means. And he's going to go into it a lot, but it's basically your belief, your action, and your results, okay? And anytime I speak to folks, we talk about committing, focusing, and finishing. And those things are exactly in line with belief, action, and results. So belief, anytime you believe in something, that's how you commit. You can't commit to something you don't believe in, now can you? Right? The actions, like the actions that are taken, that's specific focus, right? That is required to get good or to grow anything, right? So you have to take action, and with that action, there's a required amount of focus that has to happen. And then the results. The biggest thing that I can't stand is quitting. Hate it. I absolutely hate it. I don't want to be around anybody that quits anything. But I love finishers, right? What's the difference in a quitter and a finisher? for me, like, we recently had a massive exit on a business that had been a big part of our life for 10 years so that we could do some other things. I didn't quit that, I finished it. Right? They look and smell the same, don't they? It's a very fine line that separates the two between finishing something and quitting something, right? So I like finishing things. And it's crazy too. Finishing things is really good. It's a good thing because beginnings always hide themselves in ends, right? So the end of something is the beginning of something else, right? But the gift that comes next doesn't come from somebody that quit something early that they didn't finish, right? And most quitters, something just got too hard or they let a circumstance define what they were going to do next. And that was how they came to the decision to quit, right? So all growth requires change, folks. And if you want to change things in a big way, I guess you got to make some big changes, don't you? How do you know when you're done, right? So you have to define that. Cool. I wouldn't have known that I'd got here if my GPS hadn't told me so, and if I hadn't typed in the end destination, how would I? The biggest reason most people quit, though, is because they didn't define the end, right? Imagine if we all went to school, kindergarten through 12th grade, most of us, right? So, that was 13 years, guys. Imagine if they didn't break it up into 13 grades. How many of you would have finished? Like, imagine you're 6, you're 7, you're like, good God, are we ever getting done with this thing? It's like, how long does this take? You know what I'm saying? So, like, being able to break things up into, so you celebrate. Like, seriously, the celebration for my son's kindergarten thing, like, I thought he graduated college. You know what I mean? It was a big stinking deal. Like, they had eagles flying and everything. It was incredible. You know what I mean? Magicians. It was quite the show for graduating kindergarten. But guess what? He was excited for first grade. And then they did it again, and he was excited for second grade, and so on and so forth. So breaking everything up into chapters and using those things. I mean, even the greatest selling book of all time, the Bible, it's broken up into verses and chapters and things, isn't it? Right? So, and it's easier to reference that way too, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? So, awesome. Well, everything that you're here to, like all of you are here for change or some type of growth, right? What I can tell you is that all the growth that you want, it doesn't start in your mind. It all starts in your heart, 100% of it. Because I don't know how you can believe in it if it's not attached to your heart, right? And no matter what, when you're making transition, it's hard, and the days are long. But when you look back, the years were fast. You know, it's a lot like raising kids. You know what I mean? The days take forever, but then you look back and it will blur. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for like holidays, like in today's world, I don't know if I'd remember what happened last year or the year before or whatever. I can reference those through those chapters we talked about, like grades, through holidays. So for me, holidays are a big purpose. Like this Friday is my daughter's second birthday, tomorrow. It's her second birthday. And if you hadn't seen a big show, my wife's putting on quite one. You know what I'm saying? My daughter won't remember it, but we will. And we'll be able to show her videos and photos of it. It's going to be a good time. All right, well, first things first. Let's get real with ourselves, okay? So everything that you seek, opportunities don't happen, guys. You create them. Like success is on purpose. Nobody scores the game-winning touchdown by accident. Nobody hits the game-winning shot by accident. Success is 100% intentional and on purpose. All right? So that's the first thing. You got to understand that. And then every one of you is different. You're one of one, right? So I believe, and this is, out of all the things that I've ever said publicly, this is the one thing, and this is not even something I came up with. This is something that a friend of mine named Hunter Bledsoe taught me. And people hate what I'm about to tell you. And it's because they like to fight for their limits. They like to fight for the reasons they won't be great. And because you're one of one, I believe that life is fair. Everybody's price is just different. You know, I was fortunate enough to play baseball at the professional level from 2003 to 2007. And what I'll tell you is first of all, I worked my ass off, okay? I worked so hard that every day you show up at the clubhouse and everybody puts on their practice gear for day one, right? Day one, when I took my shirt off, I wanted to make a statement. To everybody in there that saw me, I wanted to make a statement like, damn, that guy is somebody and he worked hard, right? Immediately with just the way that I looked when I took my shirt off. Why did I want to do that? Because I was one of the smallest guys in there, guys. Like 6'2", 6'3" was like the average, and they'd move like like small people do. They're fast and strong and everything. Like I was watching the Yankee game last night and watched Aaron Judge still second base. My man can motor. He's like a specimen. He's unique. A lot of gifts. Well, guess what? That's who I was up against and I was expected to beat. Right? So my price was just different. But the Lord gave me things that maybe he didn't give. We called them big dumb donkeys back then. Guys that had all the gifts in the world and just no brains. Right? So I would outthink those guys. Right? And that was God's gift to me for my success. So I could have been the victim and be like, well, I'm not as big and strong as them, so I can't play or whatever. Or I could find my uniqueness and exploit it. Right? Every one of you, that's what you're here to figure out. Right? And, you know, they call them growing pains, guys. It hurts. Always. It hurts to grow. Change is inevitable, but growth is optional, right? Change is always going to happen. And can you grow without change? It's literally the definition of it, isn't it? Awesome. Remember this. No matter what, whatever it takes is what it takes. We could just stop right there, couldn't we? Whatever it takes is whatever it takes. All right. So we're laying the groundwork now because I'm going to start to pencil in parts of my story along the way here, okay? So first of all, as I look out at you guys right now, and I know we may have to wake you up about halfway through this to get you going, and I'm going to stand up and start moving around here in a minute. But energy follows intent. Energy follows intent. All right, let's talk about that. Seriously, January 1, what does every gym look like?
Packed to the gills.
January 14th, what does it look like?
Probably half.
Right? So the energy followed the intent. Like, guys, everybody says they want more. Everybody says they want to do more. Everybody says, I want to make at least 6 figures, but not everybody wants to do what it takes to get it. Right? Everybody wants to be fit. And about day 3 or 4 in the gym, if they make it that far, the first day their body's sore, what happens? Oh, God, I can't even get out of bed. I need a day off. Right? And so energy follows intent. So, you know, in talking with my son's 13-year-old travel baseball team, when we speak, a lot of times I will have to raise my voice and say, eyes up, because they're looking down at the ground and stuff like that. So what is their energy doing? It's not focused on what they're there to get. So what are their intentions actually at that moment? Right? So the ground, not what we're there to do, right? And by the way, I'm a volunteer when I do that. You know what I'm saying? I ain't getting paid to stand there and talk to them about that stuff. And if I wasn't there, who would be talking to them? You know what I mean? So it's very important they understand who's working with them, who the coaching staff is, what levels of success the coaching staff has had. And so that, you know, they can be drawn in and want to get more because, like, again, we all have mentors. We all have heroes. Well, we all have people that we look up to, right? So it's our job as coaches to make sure they know who we are. And then the rest of the time we're spending earning that with them, right? Because that's a relationship. So I truly believe that the source of change for everybody goes back to one specific place. And that place is different for everybody. So I'm going to tell you where mine was, all right? So I told you as a kid growing up, I grew up in middle class Nashville, Tennessee. It was a great life in the 80s and the 90s. We went out to eat 3-4 times a week, usually at a place called Shoney's. Don't know if y'all remember what that is. I didn't know that wasn't something that a lot of people with a lot of money frowned upon. It was a great place to us, and we loved it. And my dad was self-employed my entire life. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. We were happy. My dad was in the music business, so I went to college on a dual scholarship, a music and a baseball scholarship, to Trevecca Nazarene University in Nashville, Tennessee, and where I was a very late bloomer. I grew 3 inches in college. I got strong. And before I left, I set the college record as a catcher for throwing base runners out when they try to steal a base. And to our knowledge, that record still stands today. Although that's not one people brag about and that you see in headlines anywhere. However, it gave me an opportunity to play at the next level, and that changed my life. So every level that I went to from high school to college, the gap from high school baseball to college baseball was drastic. But from college to professional, guys, it was even more drastic. It's a totally different game. than what you played in high school or college. If you think you know baseball, you don't until you get to that level. And the reason that I didn't go further in the game, it wasn't necessarily because of talent or I wasn't good enough. The biggest reason is because I was just happy to be there. I didn't treat it like a business. I was still just playing the game. That was it. So in 2007, and let me tell you this, my first contract that I ever signed was for $650 a month. Okay, my rent at my apartment in Nashville was more than that. So I was in the hole from jump. That was my very first contract. And that wasn't all that I made, but the running joke around our offices and homes is that I made thousands of dollars playing baseball, right? But it was a great time, and I learned a lot from those experiences. But in 2007, quite frankly, I got tired of being broke. And I started to realize that like this was a business, and I didn't really get the business. So I decided to be finished with that point in my journey, okay? So in 2007, my off-season job every year, it's actually where I met my wife, was there was a happening bar downtown in Nashville. That's what old people say. There was a badass bar in Nashville that I was fortunate enough, I knew a friend that worked there, and they gave me a job as a promoter. The promoter was the guy that they gave us stacks of flyers to, and I went out on the streets, and they paid me in free booze and some cash to bring people into the club. And I did. That was my off-season job one year. Then I went and played ball, and I came back, and I'm like, I'm ready to promote again. They're like, Nick, that job's filled. We need you to do security. Well, over the course of like 5-6 seasons, every time I came back, I had a different job. After 5 or 6 years, I had basically ran the place. I'd DJ'd, I'd been a manager, I'd been a bartender, a bar back, I'd done everything, right? So I started to realize that there was an opportunity for marketing back then, and we started a marketing company. And that marketing company, we net profited $100,000 in our first 12 months. It was more money than I'd ever seen. And with that money, we bought our first, it was Christmas Eve, we bought our first bar. It was like a sports bar. And over the next 5 years, we bought, owned, and operated 6 more. Problem was, even though we were successful, we didn't know how to pay ourselves. So we didn't know how to handle the money. And in 2011, my son was born in 2009, I was still kind of broke. And when you're hanging out with those people all the time, it changes you. So I realized that if I didn't make a change, my change at home was going to be forced upon me, right? And that's not something that I wanted. So I made a decision to sell all my equity in my companies. And I had a partner that wanted to buy me out, and we did, and it was great. And right after doing that, I got invited into a venture with Dolly Parton's company downtown, back then when there was supposed to be a water park before the one that is at Gaylord now. And there was a high-rise development that was going in that was mixed use that I got offered to be a partner in, and I took it. And I made some pretty good decisions that when it all fell apart and I lost everything, that we didn't truly lose everything, because some people lost their homes. I just lost every penny that we had, including like our vehicles. All right, so in 2013, I have bled dry. I am 32 years old. I got a son that is, he's like 3.5 years old, a beautiful woman that don't like me very much, and I got nothing, right? And that right there. Remember I mentioned that source of change that everybody has, that one inflection point? That was mine. That was mine. And I want to tell you that every single day that I wake up, including today, that's the first thing that I think of, was that I have to make sure that I feel that feeling every day, because that still drives me today, right? No matter how great things are today or anything like that. That feeling. Kevin Hart says it all the time. He says, I remember being broke, and he's like, and I run like hell from that moment every day. You've heard Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson talk about it a lot. $7 Productions, right? $7 in his wallet. All these people have an inflection point. Is this yours? That's your choice. I hope so. Maybe it's what led you here, right? But you're here for an inflection point, all right? So in 2013, we had to make some changes. And my wife was like, we need to get counseling. And I don't like counseling. I felt like I was admitting weakness. I felt like I felt like I was admitting a lot of wrong, which is actually a really good thing. But I didn't trust the people that she wanted to go see, because I was like, aren't they, if they cure us, like, what's in it for them? They get paid for us to show up. So we found counsel in our pastor, who is somebody that's both of our best friends and that still works with us. He's actually relocated to California today, but we still keep in touch, and he still helps us along our journey. His name is Roger Patton, and he was great. But we started counseling with Roger, and Roger told me to, Nick, pick a path, go all in on one thing, and get yourself right. Work on yourself. And when he said work on yourself, what he meant was, he was like, work on your faith. All right? I grew up saying put everybody else, you were told put everybody else first, put others first, right? Well, that's wrong. Try that on an aircraft when the oxygen masks drop. Okay? If you're not healthy, you can't help people. If you're not physically fit, emotionally fit, and all those things, you can't help people. So when you hear, my buddy Brad Lee, he says you have to love yourself. Well, that sounds like a very selfish statement, doesn't it? I take that as you got to feed your faith, right? For me, my relationship with God, that's my relationship with me. That's me working on me. Okay? So, and when you have that as your foundation, then you're primed and set to be able to go help others, right? So for me, that's the foundation for us. I know that I wouldn't be anywhere without God in my life, and that is how I reinvented myself. And the first thing that I did when I reinvented myself was I changed who I saw in the mirror. So I wanted everybody to look at me different. I'm no longer a baseball player. I'm no longer a club owner, even though I still dress. You guys remember who Kevin Federline is? Well, he wore like a lot of affliction shirts and stuff, and that's what I wore. That's what I looked like back in the day. Yet I wanted people to take me to look at me and take me different. So I gave him a fighting chance to do that. So I changed what I saw in the mirror, and then I started seeking knowledge, which led to confidence. Right? The source of your confidence is your knowledge. Period. If you're not confident in something, it's because you don't have enough knowledge on it. Right? So, and that was very important for me. And through that mentorship with Roger, we started to seek and see improvement. Now, you thought, well, so that was the source of your stuff and everything got great from then. That is correct. 13 was a pretty good year. And then in 14, I thought, all right, I feel like this is stable. I'm going to go do other things. I started an insurance company in 2013. And I was so broke, guys, that when they offered me my agency, it was only $300 to buy my franchise. And that was basically the state licensing fee. That was it, $300. And when they offered it to me, they were like, here's where you sign up. We'll help you enroll. So I had to pull the old, I need to go to the bathroom card, right? Because I didn't have the money. Didn't have $300. Didn't have a credit card with $300 available on it. So when I said I got to go to the bathroom, they said, hey, whoa, are you leaving? And I said, no, I'm going to the bathroom. So I didn't leave, but I walked up to the parking lot and I called my father and I said, Dad, I need $300. He said, for what? And I told him. He gave me his credit card and he said, don't ever come back. He said, that's the last time. And that was one of the greatest gifts that he ever gave me, was cutting me off, right? And I had to stand on my own 2 feet afterwards, okay? So I walked back in, started my agency, and we did really, really well first year. And so I immediately thought, I'm ready to start my next company. Because, like, look, nobody wakes up and says, when I grow up, I'm going to be in insurance. Right? Matthew didn't. Right? As a matter of fact, Tom Brady famously said, like, man, I was sitting there in like the 4th and 5th round of the draft or whatever, and I think, man, I'm not going to get drafted. Like, God, am I going to end up selling insurance? Like, that's in his documentary. So, but insurance was one of the greatest gifts that God ever put in my life, because everything that I have today was learned through insurance, right? Because of the model of the operation of a great man named Troy McQuaig had put together. That was the source of all the stuff that I needed to know, and gave me enough things to lean on that he created, but gave me enough freedom in what I was doing to learn, and it was kind of like being raised with a good parent. They pushed me to go further. They told me to get back up when I fell, but like when I fell, it wasn't in a situation where I couldn't get back up, right? So it was truly the perfect situation for me. And it's been a perfect situation for about 4,000 or 5,000 other people nationwide as well who've gone off and done some great things, right? So I believe that everybody has that inflection point, and I believe that all change and growth starts at home. Starts at your home, right? You can't fake it there. Okay? So that was where my wife and I started our real journey. So in 2013, people were like, Nick, what books do you read? And I was like, I didn't like reading in school, man. What are you talking about? I don't do books. They're like, well, you're missing out. Some of the greatest minds their playbooks are in books. So they talked me into reading one. It was called Think and Grow Rich. Who here has read that book? You guys like it? Well, in that book, they reference another book. There was actually a follow-up to that called The Strangest Secret. And it's like a 45-minute audio book. That was the book that changed my life. In that book, there's an exercise. We call it the $1 Million Month, don't we, Matthew? Matthew's doing it right now. I still do it today. Basically, the point of that exercise was to write 10 of the easiest things that you can do 30 days in a row on an index card. And every day that you fail, you have to rip the card up, write a new card, and start all over on day one. It sounds a lot like Alcoholics Anonymous, doesn't it? So we did, and we're all excited for that first card. We were going to drink like 10 billion gallons of water every day, work out multiple times, sleep for 15 hours. We were all about it, right? And day one went by, and we ripped up a card and wrote another one. Day two went by, we ripped up a card and wrote another one. And we started to realize that, first of all, we don't know how to set real goals. The task itself was 10 of the easiest things that we could do 30 days in a row, not 10 of the most impressive. So that was the first lesson that we learned. Then once we got our goals right, we still couldn't get it done, right? Why? Because the kid got sick. I got sick. Somebody got sick. So then we were like, all right, so we have to even dial this down even more, that this is something that we can do 30 days in a row, even if we're sick in bed, all right? What we figured out was the first thing you should do every day that should be on your card is be grateful that you woke up, right? The last thing you should do every day is look back at your day, be grateful that you got the opportunities that you had, and did you do everything you set out to do? So I already had 2 out of the 10 done before we ever really started, right? It was the 16th time that my wife and I ripped up our cards that we realized that we were the problem. How many of you are the problem? Right? That moment changed our life. So, and it was uncomfortable as hell. Everything you did today has been uncomfortable, hadn't it? Except for maybe lunch. Right? What's the situation like here? Are you guys, is it private showers or is it community?
I don't know yet.
You don't know yet? I was wondering what that smell was.
That's why we went down to the water.
That's why you went down to the water. Well, look, uncomfortable is good. And new shoes are also uncomfortable when you first wear them, right? So why do you not put the old shoes back on? They're worn out. They won't get you where you got to go next. They can't serve you anymore. But the new shoes can, but they suck at first, don't they? Right? My son throws the biggest fit over new jeans and new shoes. They're stiff, they're tight, all those things kids say all the time. New shoes are uncomfortable when you first get them. You have to break them in and then they become comfortable. How many other things in your life that are new are uncomfortable at first, but you got to break them in? Right? That's just a part of the journey. And every one of you is wearing shoes, I hope. Right? And they were new at one point in time, so this is not new to you. Yet we take it for granted. That's one of the other biggest things that I've learned from these guys is life's happening to you, but once you figure out that it's happening for you, you start to realize all the great things that are happening for you, and you can apply them to your life. Like if you're a business owner, what businesses do you like and why? And are you making that a part of your business to serve others? Right? We ask that question a lot to our new business owners when we invest in them is what are your favorite places to shop, eat, and whatever, and why? And are you going to use those values into your projects? Right? Or are you just going to take them for granted like most people do and not use them? And they're literally happening for you every single day, right? Motivation is obviously what gets you started. Everybody's motivated on December 31st. New Year, cheers. Tink, 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 right? We're going to the gym in the morning. right? We're doing all these things. We're going to make money. Life's going to change this year. And then 365 days goes around and most people are in the exact same spot they were the year prior. How many of the people you went to high school with are doing that right now? Right? I hope you're not hanging out with them still, right? Because the people that you hang out with, you came here to be around other people because the people in your life right now ain't getting it done, are they? So when you leave here and you go back to them, what's going to change? And if you go back to them and you stay in the same spot with them, how can you change? The hardest thing you can do when you leave here is apply the knowledge that you got to your everyday life and move forward. That's why you came. That's going to be the hardest part. Nick, what do you think the percentages are? And you, like, seriously, I did a little bit of research. These small groups, love grows best in little houses, right? This is not a small group, but it is compared to some. The conversion rates are higher in these. They're higher in these. What do you see, Nick? He don't know I'm asking this. What's some of the things, like the people that keep coming back that are growing versus the ones that don't? What's the biggest thing that stands out to you on that?
Staying accountable to the container, like actually doing the work and mainly showing up for other people. Because when you start showing up for your brother, like rule number 4, they know it now, you're forcing like the highest level of accountability on self. So if you wake up every day and say, how can I help Matthew be better today? Well, it forces me to show up as my best self. And oh, by the way, Matthew wins. And it forces you to stay in the container and just put people first. And those are the guys, like I know for a fact the guys that have been with me a year and a half plus have actually had more impact on other people in here, which has then conversely impacted their life, versus just coming and having that taker energy where you just, what can I get from this group? How can I learn the hack and the code and that guy does marketing? Cool, let me get a marketing.
That's right.
From him. Like, that's not how you operate. So the people that have put everyone else first have been like held to a crazy high standard and then also just won by de facto.
That's exactly right. The first thing I saw when I walked in was these words, the program, right? So if it's a sports program, what does that mean?
It's a structure.
Structure thing, is it like just 2 days and it's over? Is that how it works? No, the program doesn't end when you leave, does it? It's a lifestyle. That's exactly right. So I told you guys before, mindset, skill set, habits. Those are the 3 core ingredients to success of any kind, right? Well, momentum is what gets you started. Your consistency or your habits are what get you to the finish line, okay? So every one of you has momentum right now. The question is it going the wrong way or the right way? Right? Your momentum might be standing still, right? Your momentum might be not finishing what you started or doing what you said you were going to do. Isn't that what the word commitment actually means at the end of the day, just doing what you said you were going to do? Right? You got to be honest with yourself first. And any time that you try something new, there's a video that I've shown Matthew probably 100 times, and it's the emotional cycles of change. And it's what we call the shiny object syndrome. All right, so this is how most of you start, and this is where most of you fall apart when you come to events like this or anything like that, right? So, number 1, it's called uninformed optimism. Hell yeah, a program where we get to go through waterfalls and we get to grow and do all these things? Absolutely. I'm in, right? Leads to step 2, which is uninformed pessimism, right? You get here and you're like, you want me to do what? You want me to go where? Damn, that's hard. I don't know if I want to do that, right? Think about it. If it was a business, heck yeah, I want to start an insurance agency, right, Matthew? Man, the insurance agency creates more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. Hell yeah, I'm going to be one of those millionaires. And then you get in there, you're like, oh crap, this is hard. Oh crap, this is hard. And that leads you to step number 3, which is the valley of despair. And that's where most of you leave, right? It's harder than I thought. Then that's when the next shiny object comes along. Oh, drop shipping company, or social media marketing, or whatever it may be. Man, there's another event where they don't have to lay down in freezing cold water and waterfalls and stuff. Let me do that one. Shiny object syndrome. Now, when you get past step 3, you get to informed optimism, right? That's where most of you are going to be when you leave. I think I can do this, right? I think I can do this. I think I can make it. I think I can be successful at this, right? And then step 5, that's your final destination, that's success. Okay? So as you're going through all your cycles of change, ask yourself, where in the journey are you? Like, isn't that how your GPS works? If I just typed in Tennessee, would I have gotten here on time today? Why? So the destination or the target, aren't the best shooters the ones who can hit the smallest targets? The difference between a big league pitcher and a little league pitcher, besides velocity and like body size, is who can smith the little league pitcher is just trying to hit the wall. The big league pitcher is trying to hit a spot on the wall. So the greatest at anything are the ones who can hit the smallest targets, right? So that's why, or the smallest goals. That's why you got to have the most precise goals that you can have. So that, because that's the how you can become the best at those. I believe that the two most powerful words in the English language are I am. So every one of us has a subconscious mind, okay? Now, you're not aware of it. It's below consciousness. That's why it's called your subconscious mind. Studies say that 94% of your subconscious mind was programmed within you by your 7th birthday. That's why it's so hard to get out of the projects if you grew up there, right? That's why you see the kid that was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, that's a total fool, always has money. It's all that he knows. One of the most common questions that I ask around the office a lot of times, I'll say, what leg do you put your pants on with first? Do you know? Think about it. But somehow they magically got on. You were on autopilot. You just did it. How much of your life is that way? Unintentional. Right? So what leg do you put your pants on first? Left? Why? I know, but nobody knows why. Right? That's what I'm saying. You like it first. Cool. So, well, what would happen to your day if you put on the right leg first? I'll let you know tomorrow. Cool. That's what I'm talking about. It probably falls over. That's what I'm talking about. It changed. Like, that's the thing, guys, though, is like your whole life is built of habits. And you have a lot of habits you're not even aware of. Right? So what are they doing? What are they telling yourself and your mind about what you can and can't do? These are just things that you have to ask yourself and be aware of. So the reason I think the two most powerful words are I am is because what you say after that is your truth. So one of the most common questions you'll get asked in your life is, how you doing? It's a very common greeting, right? And most people just be like, good. So that's all you are. You came here to be elite or great though, didn't you? So why are you constantly reaffirming in yourself that you're just good? So, Matthew, how are you doing?
I'm unstoppable.
That's right. What do you think you believe after you've said that 1,000 times? Everything that makes up your being is in the shape of a triangle, all right? So, where did it go? I lost myself on my notes. There you go. What you think leads to the way that you feel. The way that you feel leads to what you do. And then what you do, guess what, goes back to the way that you think. Okay? So at the end of the day, we all have basically 5 choices. I got this from Nick Saban. Okay? And look, we live in Tennessee. Okay? Most people don't like Nick Saban. All right? I think Nick Saban is, regardless of what team he's for, I think he's one of the greatest to ever live at what he does. And when he opens his mouth, I listen because it's usually really good stuff that comes out. So this is what Nick Saban says. Nick Saban says you have 5 choices that you make when anytime you do something. You can choose to be bad. You can choose to be average. You can choose to be good. You can choose to be excellent, or you can choose to be elite. Okay? Now, the difference is those that choose to be excellent or elite, there's a special focus, intensity, commitment, drive, passion, all those things to achieve those levels of success and whatever it is that you do. And most people are not willing to make those choices, right? Everybody stand up for a second.
I'll throw a roll tide in here.
Let's do it.
Yeah, my daughter's a junior in Alabama, so when you mentioned saying, I just wanted on the record, roll tide. Rough.
Boom. All right, so get them fired up for me one more time.
Oh, let's do this. Hey, where you at, Chase? We're here. Get these guys fired up. I'm stuck in the corner.
Are we doing the bang on desk?
Yep.
Let's go. Make some noise.
Get lit! The program! Get lit! The program! Get lit! The program! Give it to the Ric Flair!
All right. So the reason you're here is because you want to be around other people. You can sit down for a second. The reason you're here is because you want to be around other people that want to grow. You came here to grow. You came here to get away from everybody else you're around. Facts. Right? Because they're not here. So have you ever heard the phrase iron sharpens iron?
Yep.
What does that mean?
Like-minded individuals
That's right. If you actually take the element of iron, what does it mean when iron sharpens iron? It means that the only way for iron to sharpen itself is with another piece of iron, right? So if you want to sharpen an axe, how do you do that? You got to sharpen it with iron, right? But what happens to an axe? You don't use an axe to chop iron, do you? You use it to chop wood. What happens to the axe when you chop wood? It dulls it. How many people in your life are wood? Okay? Because what happens is if that iron only spends all of its time with wood, all that's left is damaged wood and a dull piece of iron. So it's very important that you audit the people that are in your life, guys. People don't like it when I say, like, look, some of my best friends in the world I grew up with, and I see them maybe once or twice a year. It's because they're going to different places. It's not because I don't love them or like them. They're going to different places. You came here to be around people that are going to a place similar to yourself, right? To grow. So again, I can't stress that enough. When you leave here, who are you going to be with? Who are you going to spend all your time with? How are you going to stay dialed into this community right here that you're getting fed from all day, every day, right? No matter what, the one thing I know is there's some really cool people up there. There's a few $1 billion worth of success just on that little graphic right there. And like what I can tell you about every single one of them is none of them's undefeated. None of them's undefeated. Win or you learn, right? You only lose if you don't learn from it. And one of the things that Brad challenged me with a while back, he said, man, you're a product of your choices. Wherever you're at in life right now, all the choices and decisions you made up to that point led you to where you're at today. So at the end of the day, if you're not happy with your life, whose fault is it? If you're blaming somebody else, you're taking away your ability to solve whatever problems you got. Because you're blaming somebody else, you're giving them control. Are you guys okay with that? Do you agree with that?
100%.
What do you think about that? In 2015, the company that we represented ran some, they run numbers all the time, and they were looking for what they called leaders. They don't have managers, they call leaders, because leaders lead from the front. Managers don't. And I love that. And they were looking for leaders to launch new agencies. That's how you scale. That's how you grow. And we were some of the people that got picked to do that. And from 2016 until the end of last year, when we finished doing that, we had launched close to 200 health insurance agencies and had done about $150 million in revenue during that time span. That's a lot. It's a lot. And the amount of learning, like the bigger we got, the more problems that came. There was a poet. We read about him in elementary school, Wordsmith, a famous one. He said, "Mo money, mo problems." Who was that? Biggie, that's right. Dude, like what the problems that you're having today, folks, you're going to solve them, but like new ones are coming, man. They never stop. Okay? They never stop. Like my son was awesome. Unbelievable kid at 10. We could trust everything he said and everything. And then he kept growing and changing, and other people came in his life. And if you have kids and they're always getting in trouble because of another kid, what do you tell your kid to do? Stop hanging out with that person, right? But then we don't do that to ourselves. We do not we don't practice the same things that we instill in our children, right? So this is kind of where I wanted to bring this little segment to a close. Like, look, I told you guys, I like to feed off of you. Like, I like interviewing people. I like being asked questions. So I hope you guys bring a bunch, but I'm gonna kind of close this part out with this. And that is like, no matter what you do after failure is what defines you. Period. What you do after failure is what defines you. I fail every day. Right? That means I'm trying new things. That means I'm growing. What makes something worth it is what you had to go through to get it. So the things that are most special to you were probably the hardest things for you to get or achieve or whatever. Like, that's what makes them worth it, is the difficulties you have to overcome to have them. If they were easy, we'd take them all for granted, wouldn't we? Customer experience is king in that, right? Cool. Like I have a little bit more for you, but it usually leads, the questions usually lead right to those. So these guys need to get up, take a walk, bathroom. What do they need to do?
Keep moving, I think.
Keep moving. You guys okay? Awesome. Well, look, ask me some questions. Let's see how I've done, and let's see what information you guys have retained. Let's see what questions you bring. I'm gonna sit back down for a minute. Well, look, it's cool, man. Like one of the things that we've done on my podcast is, I've had Pro Bowl NFL players. I've had gold and platinum achieving artists. I've had the owners of major league franchises. I've had some really awesome people on there. And the coolest part, like I use Blaine Bishop for example, the former Tennessee Titan. You can go and watch 40 or 50 interviews with Blaine, including his show, and it's all about NFL football. The dude's 5'9", weighs $180. He wasn't supposed to be there, right? So I want to know, what support did you have at home? Who was driving you? How did you get there? Because you weren't supposed to be there. And when I told him that's what we were going to talk about, he just grinned from ear to ear, and it was one of the coolest interviews. I've been able to have that experience with quite a few folks. There's the longest running television and radio duo in the history of television radio is some people right here in Nashville, Tennessee called Charlie Chase and Lorianne Crook. They're known as Crook and Chase, and they're in 16 major markets on Sirius Radio today. They were the heartbeat. They just got a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Country Music Association for their platform for country music artists. And Charlie was a recent interview that we had in the studio, and I was so excited to get him in there because here's a guy that's been doing what I like to do for 50 years, right? So I was there to learn. And this guy was as cool, and we talked about he told stories of where he was at, the station he was at when Elvis died, his being a DJ in high school, on the high school radio station and all those things. It was so cool to hear the backstories and how all the people that we look up to today, they all started just like you right there. And that's one of my favorite shows. I see the Believe sign on the bottle over there with Ted Lasso. You got to believe and believe, dude. It's not that you got to see it to believe it. It's you got to believe it to see it. You've always heard it backwards, right? So, man, if I had to say, so my wife's, seriously, my wife's been a guest. My son's been a guest. My dad's been a guest. So I'm just going to stop there and say those are my three favorite because I got to go home. All right, I got to go home. And my wife's fantastic. She's the brains in the family and the looks. I don't really know what I do. But her interview is fantastic. And she's been on twice. I love it. My son's 13. He's been cast in a Broadway musical. And he travels all over the country playing competitive baseball. He's been a guest twice, right? Those were good. And then everything that I am today is a reflection of my amazing parents. And I had my dad on there because Mom don't like the camera too much. And Dad came on and talked about how he sees youth today. It's pretty good. So cool. Did I answer your question all right?
No, you didn't.
Well, I'll keep going. I won't quit. I say my son because that's my flesh and blood, my seed, my dude right there. First time he did, he was 12. Second time he was 13. Handling himself like a champ, man. It was awesome. It was awesome. So I was extremely proud of that moment. To have him on there, absolutely. We were always big dreamers, and there was things that we wanted to do. Remember, I got into insurance to get me to the next place. Okay, so in 2020 is when we started our exit strategy. It was a 2-year exit. 2 years. That's how far ahead in advance we had to plan. Because remember, that's not about us, right? There were 200, give or take, souls involved in our operation, and we had to leave them better than we found them. Okay. So, and with that 2 years, that was our deadline. We didn't know if it was going to happen that way. But again, starting with the end in mind, like your GPS does, that was the goal. And then we worked our way up to do that. Because, and some of the things that incentivized that were the other opportunities that we had. Because those opportunities wouldn't be there if we didn't make our first deadline. You know what I mean? So, I tell everybody in my life today, I've been saying it a lot, we don't have marketing problems, we don't have sales problems, we don't have revenue problems, we have thinking problems, right? We're not thinking of the right solutions, and we're not doing it fast enough. Speed is incredibly important to success, all right? All those people up there, they move fast. If you can't keep up with them, you don't get to play. right? Period. So that's a part of the job is like, look, a lot of those folks up there are people that I look up to. There's, Tim Corbin, that dude, like, man, if you ever get a chance to hear him speak, go. That was what, like, I didn't want him to leave the studio. I would have kept him there. We'd still be there talking if we could. And he's all about, everything he does is impeccable. Discipline, habits. It's incredible. Everything's earned. If you're not keeping up with what Deion Sanders is doing in college football right now, literally, like, they don't even give jersey numbers out until it's earned. Guess what? Tim Corbin don't either. Vanderbilt University baseball, regarded as one of the top 2 programs in the United States last 10 years. These are like, guys, these are the best of the best recruits coming in, right? And guys that are returning, they practice for 6 weeks without Vanderbilt anywhere else. It's plain black shirt, shorts, hat, because they hadn't earned it. They dress in a tent next to the field. They didn't even go in their $1 million locker room because they didn't earn it. The best of the best. That's how they get treated. Why would you want any different? Why do you want it to be easy? Would they appreciate their locker room as much if they got it day one? That's exactly right. And like, look, they spend a lot of time in the classroom too. When I do that with my young kids, the parents think we're stupid. Why are you taking them to the classroom? They play baseball. It's because that's where you learn, right? You learn in 2 ways, through like a lecture like this and through experience. You got to have both, right? So they go in the classroom, and when they go in the classroom, if you saw their classroom, every table is lined up on the ceiling grids up top in perfect synchronization. Every notebook and pen and all the things on the table are exactly the same on every table. And nobody touches those things or even opens the notebook up until Coach Corbin walks in the room, stands at the podium and opens his, and then you watch all of them open theirs at the same time. What it takes to win. They rehearse the national anthem over and over and over again. Go to a Vanderbilt game and watch them stand on the chalk line for the national anthem. They're unique, identical. That's why they're so good. It's because they play with each other. Right? They're a team. They're a unit. They're on a mission together. Make sense? So a lot of people tell me I want work-life balance. Right? It's a very common question. Well, first of all, it's different for everybody. And what I get for me is what I get through my family, yesterday, Matthew was in the office and I owed him a meeting. And my son, some things came up in his life where I had to tend to that, and it kind of messed up my day a little bit. I told Matthew, I could have did everything I did from my office at home. However, I came in because I owed him time. And it would have been a janky move to call you up after, because he did a lot of work to prep for that meeting. I had to be there to show up for him, right? So, look, I got a 2-year-old daughter, a 13-year-old son, and a wife that, I just want to be around all the time. So, for me, I'm a father and a husband as I sit here today, right now. I'm still one. I don't need to clock out from that. It's a part of me. And if I got a phone call right now that said, hey, your kids, something's happened, we need you to get here, I'd be like, guys, I got to go. That's how I treat my business too, right? I feed everything that needs to be fed when it needs to be fed. Right? I water the grass when it needs to be watered. The grass ain't greener on the other side. It's green where you water it. Right? So, is it perfect? Hell no. Are there bad days? Absolutely. Is there a better way to do it? Yep. And my son brings home new challenges every day. Right? The moment that our daughter became mobile, bro, it was crazy. We went from we were outnumbered, our kid 2-1, to now we're playing man-to-man defense. You know what I'm saying? Life changed. Okay? And that's the thing. Change is inevitable and the growth part is optional. So everybody's a little bit different. If it's not working for you, what can you do different, man? And again, we have family time. We're all going in the same direction. We have meetings. We're a team. Our family's a team. So we act like one. And my son who's 13, it's like, dude, I need you to be a better teammate. Right? I don't need to be getting calls from the cleaning lady saying that she found 6 pairs of dirty drawers underneath the bed and trash. You know what I'm saying? I need you to be a good teammate. I need you to keep your room nice. I need you to keep these things. I need him to be held accountable, just like I'm held accountable to him, right? So it's for me, it's an ongoing solution that never changes, and it's different every single day. And there are bad days, but there are also great days. And the bad days are how I know what a great day is a great day. Right? The bad days make me appreciate the great days. And then I learn from the bad days and try to create more great days. They change a lot. My most effective habits. The one thing that I do is like I study a lot. I spend a lot of time learning. I spend a lot of time paying attention to people that I look up to, what they're doing, but more importantly, why they're doing it and how I can do it too. The first time I ever met Brad Lee. Who knows who Brad Lee is? He's a freaking awesome dude, man. One of the coolest guys, nicest guys. And the first time I ever met him, he said, we were talking about digital marketing. And at the time, I was using static photos only. And we were doing really well with it. In the world of insurance, people don't market very well, right? So the static photos were just killing it. I mean, you thought we were like God's gift to marketing. And he looked at it. He was like, where's the video? And I'm like, we hadn't needed it yet. He was like, well, how do you know? Where would you be if you were using video, Nick? And I was like, that's a great question. He's like, you want to find out? All right, cool. So the next day, I started making phone calls, and I found me a camera guy. And I said, hey, come teach me how to shoot stuff, and then I'm going to send it to you, and you're going to edit it and help me put it online. And he was like, cool. Found my guy. And then Brad saw it, and Brad was like, hey, man, that was actually like the fastest I've ever given anybody advice that I've seen them take it and do something good with it. And he put me on his podcast. And that was the next inflection point for us for the good, is because I went from like 3,000 or 4,000 followers on Instagram to like 30 almost overnight. All because I took somebody's advice, did it the best that I could and impressed him, and he gave me a spot and he gave me a shot, right? And I guess we did. I took my wife with me on the podcast just to make sure we did good, right? And it did great, and we still use clips from that footage today. But man, did life change after we started doing video. Like drastically. And then, and I was doing video, and we weren't using subtitles. And then we realized that most people are in a private spot in the restroom when they're doing a lot of their scrolling, and they've got it on mute. So they're watching videos without volume, so you got to have good subtitles and stuff. And then we started learning about all this stuff, and then that led to the podcast studio and the full-blown creative team and what's now known as HidLab Creative Studios, right? So, and Matthew is a part of that, and he's doing a lot of digital content and videos and learning about those things. What I can tell you, everybody says, what's the sharpest tool you got, Nick? It's my podcast, right? Any of those people that are up there, if I called them right now and I didn't have a podcast, why would they come hang out with me? It's the most powerful networking tool I can find, right? And it also establishes me as an authoritative figure or an expert in whatever it is we're talking about that day, because I'm hanging out with somebody that's great at it, right? And now their audience, which is huge, I'm tied to their audience for a whole episode that lives forever on the internet, right? So it's been an amazing thing. If you don't believe in digital marketing, guys, like the average person, studies say, spends 5-6 hours a day minimum looking at this thing. Are you on it when they look there? And if not, your customers are going to be buying from somebody that's on there, right? We learned that real quick, and that is fact. That is fact. People start to actually like believe the people that they see on here. There's some fools out there, right? You've seen them. Maybe I'm one of them, right? Maybe you are too, but it don't matter if people believe you, right? What else? Good questions. Yes. Michael Jordan had a quote that they were asking him about, why he keeps taking all the shots, because he's missed so many game-winning shots and so on and so forth. He said, man, I have yet today to find an adult human being that's crawling around on the sidewalk somewhere because they fell the first or second time they tried to walk and just gave up on it. Every one of you did something for a long period of time until you mastered it and just walking. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what? If it worked for somebody else, it's true. But maybe it won't work for you. You've got to find out what does work for you. But all those suggestions are a great way to get started. There's a million ways to make a pizza, right? But so which one do you like best? Right? And it's going to be based on the ingredients that are put in there. But the same ingredients, for the most part, are put in just about every single pizza. At least maybe a cheese one with tomato sauce or something like that, right? So for me, it was, success is not the same for everybody. It's a combination. It's a different combination for everybody. But as the fastest thing you can do is figure out what's the racket and what's not. And that's what I'm saying. Is the source a credible source that you're listening to? Right?
That's really hard to find out these days.
It's not as much, just because maybe I'm a credible source for some, but maybe not as many as some of those people up there, right? So the people that found me as a credible source, maybe they found something in me that they see in themselves or are like themselves, and they start using those things. But again, like there's certain things that Brad does and says that aren't good for me, right? But there are some that is. So I can learn a little bit from just about everybody and everything that happens, even if it's what not to do. Learning what not to do is just as valuable as learning what to do, right? So again, the more knowledge that you're seeking, the more knowledge that you bring in, like you start to get good at certain things, you start to learn certain things, you start to figure out what's alike in all these people, and then you become confident in those things, right? But it doesn't, like confidence isn't grown overnight. Does anybody become an expert at something overnight? No, and usually when you're learning how to be an expert, when you're learning how to walk, you learn things along the way and you made little subtle changes until you didn't fall anymore, right? You didn't just magically be like, oh, that's how you walk. And you stood up and you did it. You learn something new every single time. My daughter's learning how to speak right now, right? So every day it's new stuff. The sounds that come out of a child that's learning how to speak in a public place are awesome. Like they're, and then you don't know what's going to happen next. You're just like, holy crap, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, and you're in the middle of the church or something. So it's all about trying things. Man, it's shots on goal. The more shots you take, the more shots you do make. You also miss more too, though, right? And it's just based on percentage. So there's no great answer for that. But like again, it's just you seek knowledge, and through that seeking of knowledge, you do gain confidence. You will grow confident, even if it's what not to do. Advice to have for being a good husband and father? Well, that's a really good question. And as a father, I feel like the greatest thing that I can do is teach my kids to get up. Just keep getting up when they get knocked down. As a parent, you don't want them to fall. I could go back to the condo that we lived in when my son first started walking, and he fell and he skinned his knee. I could show you the exact spot on the sidewalk that it happened, and it broke my heart, especially because it happened when my wife was out of town. Okay. But what I learned is it's not my job to keep him from falling. It's to make sure he gets up and walks again. So the first time he fell off his bike, it was nasty. It was bloody. It was rough. And quite frankly, like my heart hurt so bad. And like I made my kid get up. We didn't even wipe him off. Blood was dripping down his leg and everything on the street. Get on the bike and pedal and ride. Because I didn't want him to be scared to get back on the bike. We'll clean him up afterwards. So as a parent, the greatest thing you can do is like, life's hard, man, for everybody. Okay? NES or the electric company, they don't care what's going on in your life when the bills due. You don't get to call up and give them a doctor's note. Life's fair, everybody's price is just different. That's the greatest thing you can teach your kids, right? Is once you know what it is that you want, I think that's what makes America the greatest country on earth, is because if you want something bad enough and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get it, I think you can have it. Right? So that's what I want to teach my kids. As a husband, man, like my wife does more for me than I can ever do for her. And she's my teammate. So my wife and I have worked together. That's what I met her in the workspace. Matthew will tell you, in our office by design, her desk is right next to mine. Like, that didn't work for my parents. They tried that too, and it was bad. It works for us. And we learned what she was great at and what I was great at, and how to become good teammates. But the biggest thing is we dream together, and we're going in the same direction. Right? You're here for a reason. So if you have a wife, I hope that she's on board with it and is supporting of that, and maybe wants to do something like that for herself, so that you guys can go in the same direction. Because people do grow apart. Most common reason that I think is because they're not going to the same place together. Because if they are, how can they grow apart? Right? So in 2013, my wife and I were separated. We weren't married yet. And what brought us back together for both of us was the thought of, I couldn't stand the thought of another man raising my son. I brought him here. That's my responsibility. And she felt the same way. That was our common ground. And then we ended up learning how to find each other again, right? And literally, like, she's my best friend. You know what I'm saying? She's amazing. The guys that know me will tell you, she's everywhere with me. You know what I'm saying? If she wasn't at my kids' Easter party at school today, she would have been here today. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay, men, to need her. Because you do. I promise. How's it working for you so far? You know what I'm saying? So what I do know is that all of you are here because you want different, you want more. And if you had it, you wouldn't be here. That's what I know. So when I was interviewing people that wanted a job, the one thing I already knew is they weren't happy doing what they were doing. So if they tried to get me to give them what they had somewhere else, my question was, is why? It's not good enough. Why are you comparing it? It's apples and oranges. You want different. So let's figure out what different looks like, and let's work together to get you there. Matthew, let me ask Matthew a question. So Matthew is a prime example of surrounding yourself with like-minded people. My mom would have, when I took my first insurance job, I remember I had nothing, guys. I had to borrow money, right? My mom was telling me, like, there's a management job open at Walmart.
Actually, also, my brother told me to get a job at Walmart.
Dude, they paid like 28 grand a year and it had some benefits. And my mom was like, do that and support your family. I'm like, that won't support my family. Right? And now she's my biggest fan. But remember, my mom's job is to protect me, to keep me from falling down. Right? And when you go home, if you try something new and you go home and the people are going to ask you, what'd you learn? Like, are you going to do it? What's involved? They probably ask Matthew, well, tell me about selling insurance. Right? Well, he'd only been to 2 interviews. Like, studies say you're only going to retain like maybe half of what you hear today. So he went home and they asked questions and he didn't know half the answers. So they're like, oh man, I don't think you should do that. They were protecting him because he didn't have the answers. Right? How many people in your life are that way? When you go home, are those voices going to be what control you? Those voices are probably the ones that got you here today. Or they don't want you to leave at the end of the day. That's a pandemic in itself, absolutely. I got some family members myself that got some grown kids living there. I told my kid at 18, you're out. Bye. You'll be ready, I promise. Right? We got big plans when the kids are gone, baby. The day that my wife and I got married, it was actually that we joined our church and got married in the same day. Okay, it was a shotgun wedding, believe it or not. She didn't know we were going to do that day, and thank goodness she went through with it. But yeah, so it was. I had it all planned out and everything. We joined the church, and then they played a little recording over the speaker, and it was me proposing to her right there to do it. So, but I tell this story a lot. So the guy that married us was our mentor, right? And you know when they turn you around like, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. Nick Hyder, and everybody claps, right? Well, the pastor's behind you. And then we walked out center lane, right? Somehow he beat us to the door in the back. We still hadn't figured that out. But this is what he told us. He said, he gave us a hug. He said, guys, I love you. Congratulations. He's like, but this is the most important thing you're going to hear today. And I was like, really? Out of everything that's happened, this is it? He said, when you're on the right track, the devil works hard. Right? If the devil ain't working on you, you ain't where you want to be. You're where he wants you to be. He was like, so you guys made some gigantic jumps in your faith in your life today. He was like, it's about to get hard. It's about to get hard. We've had everything from somebody told child service we were leaving our kid alone, and we went through an investigation with that. I don't know if I've ever said that out loud. You know, our kid was misdiagnosed with autism when he was 2 years old. So like we started like questioning ourselves and what we did and everything else. We've been in lawsuits and everything else, and none of it was really relevant to anything. Like that's just things that happen. That's just a part of it. So things that stung, I mean, I can give you stuff that stung this week. You know what I mean? They never stop. They never stop going away. It's just kind of a part of it. I think the greatest pound per pound boxer of all time is Rocky Balboa. And he said it's not the punches, it's not how many times you can get hit, or it's how hard you can punch, it's how many punches you can take. Right? That's so true, man. It's all about how many times you can get hit and keep moving forward. Right? So they're here hitting you all weekend. So you can move forward. It's freaking awesome, right? Here's where we kind of bring it to a close. There's a voiceover in a movie. I can't even remember what movie it is, and I don't know who said it, but it's fantastic. So I'm going to read it, okay? The question was, he said, do you ever feel like life is just pushing you towards something, like some greater purpose? And then the voiceover comes on, and it's a pastor. It sounds like a pastor of some sort. And he says, once you begin to discover who you are, then you really realize how you have been given authority over your life. But you can only do that through the struggle of life, and most people are born to struggle. Yet most people go through life avoiding pain. And when you're working on a dream, at some point in time, a transition takes place. You learn how to leap higher. You learn how to start challenging yourself to dig deeper. Something in you that you never knew was there is activated, and it's been dormant your whole entire life. You don't try to take shortcuts. You do what you know is right because you have been chosen for that great work. And Coach Michael Burt said this on his podcast, and I'd never heard it before. He's like, Nick, you know what your purpose of your brain is? It's to keep you alive, not to thrive. You have to train it to thrive. Right? So how trained is yours? How trained is yours? 6 signs that you're winning in life. You ready? Number 1, you got haters. Number 2, those that doubted you are now asking you for advice. Number 3, you reject drama. Number 4, I think this one might be the most important. You celebrate the wins of others. Number 5, you wish the best for those who have done you the worst. Number 6, this is the most important one, is you love who you see in the mirror. Right? And remember this, every one of you, some of you are volunteering parts of your story today, and that's awesome. You need to tell it because the person that you're most qualified to help is the person that you used to be. Right? Everybody get out your phones if you got them. Everybody's going to get a new follower on Instagram today. All right? Follow me at Nick Hyder right now, Hiter, and I'm going to follow you back. My podcast is called The Hitstreak. It's on all platforms, video on YouTube and Spotify. Each episode's getting about, the audience is about 200,000 per week on that podcast. And anything else, nickhyder.com. Awesome. Awesome. Nick, thank you guys.